Andy, I'm the best singer. Look, listen to me. I'm the best. La 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 la. I'm also a good singer, Sam. Listen, la 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 la. No, I am the best singer. La 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 la.
Oh dear children, can you see what's happening here? Every time Sam brags about himself, he lifts himself above poor Andy. I think that makes Andy feel really sad about himself. The Bible tells us that we should not brag and boast about ourselves. James 4 verse 16 says, "But now you are proud and you brag, and all of this bragging is wrong." It's very easy to become puffed up with pride about ourselves. We can easily run our mouths about all the things we think we are good at, or all the prizes we may have won. But do we ever stop to think about how the wonderful God who created us and gave us all our gifts and talents feels when we are bragging and boasting?
Maybe he feels sad like I did.
Now we are going to hear about a very proud and boastful king, King Nebuchadnezzar. This story can be found in the book of Daniel, chapter 4.
Yay! It's Bible story time!
King Nebuchadnezzar ruled over the kingdom of Babylon, but he did not worship God.
Uh-oh.
Daniel was an Israelite man who served in the royal palace. He had always worshipped God, even when it was difficult and put him in danger.
I think she's talking about when the lions didn't eat him, even though they were really hungry.
That's right. But God had also given Daniel the gift for interpreting dreams.
And I bet you he didn't boast about his gift, Sam.
All right, you two. One day, the king woke up afraid because of a dream he had had. He called Daniel to come and tell him what it meant. The dream was about a giant tree full of leaves and fruit, growing so big that everyone could see it.
Whoa!
And even the animals came to live by it. Then a holy messenger came to the tree, and all the fruit and leaves were destroyed, and only the stump was left behind, and it would stay like that for 7 years.
I wonder what it means.
Remember, God had given Daniel the gift for interpreting dreams, so he did know what it meant. But he was worried about telling the king what it meant. The king was not going to like the meaning. The king saw that Daniel was worried, but told him to be honest and tell him the meaning.
I don't know if that was a good idea.
Daniel told him that the tree in the dream was the king, and that God was going to remove him from his royal position and send him to live in the wilderness for 7 years because of his pride.
See what pride gets you, Sam?
Now, let's take a quick break from this story to look a little closer at Daniel. Daniel was a man who loved God and knew God's heart. He had always worshipped God and stayed close to God. So Daniel knew how the king's arrogant behavior was not pleasing to the Lord. Let's read Jeremiah chapter 9, verse 23.
This is what the Lord says. Don't let the wise boast in their wisdom, or the powerful boast in their power, or the rich boast in their riches. But those who wish to boast should boast in this alone, that they truly know me and understand that I am the Lord, who demonstrates unfailing love and who brings justice and righteousness to the earth, and that I delight in these things. I, the Lord, have spoken.
This passage is very clear about not being full of pride. If you want to boast about anything, the Lord says you should boast about knowing the Lord.
Ah, I think I'm getting it now.
Good. So Daniel knew God and would have seen that the king's bragging and boasting might get him into trouble with God. And the king's dream was clearly a warning from God to stop all his bragging and boasting. Let's continue with the story. Where was I again?
The bragging king.
Oh yes. So clearly the king was not too bothered about the warning from God. He continued to be boastful and proud. One day he was walking along, all puffed up with pride, talking about his great kingdom and his own awesome strength.
This isn't going to end well.
At that moment, the king was struck by madness. He began to bark and howl like an animal.
He did what?
And just like Daniel said, he went off to live in the wild with the animals for 7 long years. After that long 7 years had passed, the king was very sorry for the way he had been. He gave God all the glory and went back to being the king. Only now he was more humble and worshipped God. So now Sam and Andy, what important lesson do you think King Nebuchadnezzar learnt about bragging?
That you mustn't brag about yourself, only about God.
Good answer, Andy. And what do you have to say, Sam?
I'm sorry for bragging too. It's okay.
Sam, instead of bragging about your singing abilities, what could you boast about?
I could boast about my wonderful God who created me to sing praises to him.
That's right. And you can start by singing this week's memory verse. It goes like this. 1 Corinthians 1 verse 31. Let the one who boasts, boast in the Lord.
Come on, Andy. Let's sing it together. 1 Corinthians 1 verse 31. Let the one who boasts, boast in the Lord.
Well done, you guys.
Come, children, you can sing it with us too. 1 Corinthians 1 verse 31. Let the one who boasts, boast in the Lord. It's so shiny.
This week's lesson, we used a seesaw to show how when we boast about ourselves, someone has to be put down. Why don't you find a few odds and ends lying around the house or in the garden and make your own seesaw? And you can put that seesaw into your testimony arc box. And that will be a reminder not to boast about ourselves, but to always boast in the Lord.
Dear Gabs, thank you for being my Princess Leia.
Who's that?
I am no longer Solo. Han Solo. Yeah, this is so good.
Hello there. Hi.
Andy, what are you doing here?
It's time for Joke of the Week.
Ah, yeah, you're right. Okay, I remember this one. It was from Jemima, age 5.
Mm-hmm.
And the joke is, why can't you play cards in the wilderness?
I don't know why.
Because there's too many cheaters there. Amazing.
That was such a good one. Well done, guys. Remember, send us your name, age, and joke. See you next week. Bye.
Cheers, guys.